Okay, I'm going to be translating this particular show from German into English. I take full responsibility for translation. I will occasionally pause if it's difficult for me to translate. I am not the moderator in the video, but I'm attempting to translate uh, what is spoken in the video itself. So let's go ahead and begin. Moderator will appear in just a second. So if you ever attempt to ask your friends to explain what the definition of race is, they will more likely say four or more different races with different skin colors, and each probably located in a different continent. As we all know, this definition is totally wrong, but a large percentage of the global population still believes this myth of four or five races. We can start with this map in 1907, which was created by French geographer Paul Vidal de la Blache. You can see the attempt to divide the world into different parts: Black, European, North European, South America, Australia, Middle East, Africa, and Native Americans. Also Nordic. Uh, these kinds of maps were used toward until the mid 20th century. Similar map can be found in this particular image. It's a German map. It also has distinctions between races, as you can see. So let's wait just a second. So now we get to natural scientists and their influence. It was around 18th century, and their interest in classifying race. Here's a book by Carl Linnaeus, and he basically divides humanity into different parts, as you can see. Different attempts to describe different racial groups. Similar book like this illustrates the use of skulls or facial differences. Again, the attempt is to classify different races. So the 19th century, we have the rise then of race science, or scientific forms of racism, which included disciplines like anthropology and craniology, which were used to again make these distinctions between races. This is particular German Johan Friedrich Blumenbach and his different attempts to classify different races. This is a school book, French school book, which also attempts to classify races into four. It existed between the years 1877 and 1977. Around 85 million copies were sold. Many children actually used this book in France. This could include grandparents, even your parents. And these are all incorrect demonstrations. Okay, now what's happening in here, A brief discussion of the discovery of the New World and Europeans discovering new routes and discovering the New World. That's what this map is all about. It shows interest in international trade and how this also developed the need for new labor demands, and Europeans started to look for Africa for labor and slaves to exploit them. And this is then, as we know, we call the slave trade, which lasted roughly 400 years, from the 10th century to roughly the 19th century. 25 to 30 million people were involved in the slave trade. And again, this created connections between different continents of the world. This age of imperialism again created a kind of Eurocentrism, and colonialism had a long legacy, including German colonialism, has significant impact. This is World War I, roughly. Again, also relates to colonialism. Here is an image of French colonies, Spanish colonies, Dutch colonies, Danish colonies. So European colonization and its impact. But also Japan had imperial ambitions elsewhere. These are some of the places that Japan occupied. Now we're going to move to World War II. Nazism, and particularly the Nazi ideology, belief in Aryan, racist ideologies. This was around 1939 to 1945. Extermination of Jews, Roma. This extermination included homosexuals, disabled individuals, anybody opposed to the Nazi regime. Definitely racist ideologies flourished, as well as anti-Semitism. This is post-World War II map. Of course, the significance of the Nuremberg trials. After World War II, it was divided. Now, it's going to go backwards in history just a little bit. U.S. Civil War, 1861. These are the Southern States, Confederate States. Major battle on the issue of slavery. Confederacy lost, and at that point slavery was abolished, but Jim Crow came into full force, and racial segregation persisted in the private sphere. Public segregation separated water fountains, etc. This developed all the way into the 20th century with the Civil Rights Movement, 1964. Things changed. Of course, 2008, the election of Barack Obama brought significant change. but racism is not yet overcome, or has not yet been totally overcome. Also, the significance of South Africa and the apartheid regime should not be ignored, which also uh, was based on a system of racial separation. These are the maps that show black townships and white townships. I'm going to keep letting this run. Hopefully the commentary is helpful. I cannot simply translate everything, but I'm trying to just do as much as I can. Again, a map of the world. Global world. Alright. Try and translate this. Oh, the emergence of Homo sapiens roughly 150,000 years ago, and then you see the spreading of Homo sapiens. So this is the more modern approach, rather the racist approach that we get from scientific racist traditions. Right? Trying to figure out what that is. Oh, that's the climate change. And that's what can explain different pigmentation, right? Skin color differentiation. That's what this map is all about here. Basically, here we have discussion on globalization and multiculturalism, which is starting to also have more of a positive impact. But again, racism has not yet been abolished.